Hey, today we have a great guest. I'm excited to have my man here today. In my travels of helping these kids get scholarships, this is one of the guys I'm most proud of. Played for me at Mission Bay High School. He went on to San Jose State University, played there, and he did really good in the academia part of it as well. We have with us today Dimitrous Chattman.
All right, DC.
Thanks for having me, Coach.
What's up, my man? Looking good.
Appreciate it.
Newly married as well.
Congratulations.
You guys have to show me the secret handshake later.
Okay.
Dimitrious, man, we want to go over. I mean, you have accomplished a lot in your short, young life here, and we're gonna go over all that. But let's go on onto the sports part of it first, and then we'll get to the rest of it later. So, what was your earliest beginnings in the sport of football? I mean, Pop Warner, or did you play that, or did you come later in life?
Well, I used to hang out on the tetherball courts, and some guy started. He's like, "Hey, man, you're too big to be playing tether." No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I was a Balboa.
Oh,
a Balboa
Raider.
The Raiders.
Really? I bet your team was stacked.
Commitment.
Oh yeah, I didn't really know nothing about football. What's funny is I kind of grew up in North Park, and I have family all over San Diego. But when I was in the elementary age, we were over in North Park, and me and Pops, we used to bike ride down at Morley Field.
Okay.
And my mom had told me no about football for years, and she's like, "No, you're gonna get hurt," and da 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 da. So one day, my dad I think he saw someone he knew, and he's like, "You want to play football?" And I'm like, yeah, Dad, I do. And he's like, all right, we're gonna sign you up. And I was like, well, what about moms? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it, I'll handle her. And so one day when we rode up there, Coach came over. He's like, here, put this helmet on, because they had already been practicing.
Oh,
okay. I was late, and he's like, all right, line up right here. You're gonna race this kid. And so he brings the infamous Eric Smith, the all-time Balboa Raider during my era.
Greatest Raider of all time.
Yeah, and he was like, okay, race him. And I raced him, got dusted by 10 yards. Yeah. He's like, okay, you're going to play offensive line. Smartest thing, best thing that ever happened to me too, man.
Really?
Because what you forget, if you look at NFL, look at college, a lot of the smartest guys on the field or off the field are offensive linemen.
Yeah.
And so, when I was playing offensive line, it just allowed me to learn the game and learn how to block, learn, just all the things that, the prima donnas forget about.
Yeah.
I learned at an early age. So, yeah.
Well, Wheeler's offspring, DeMero over there, he started out O-line too as well.
Yeah, sure did.
A lot of athletes playing O-line in Pop Warner. So then you played. So can we get some other famous names that you guys played with along in your career at the Balboa Raiders? I mean, you mentioned Eric Smith.
He was the staple during that era, and because his brother played, his dad coached, and they just really did a really good job in the community, and I remember his mom being really involved. But there was so many guys. I mean, I came in, I played with Trisby for a couple years, played with Wade. Mm-hmm. I remember Coach Darrell. He was a former Marine guy, and he used to have us in.
It's crazy.
But he was crazy in a way. He was just fanatical about discipline. And
if that's what you want to call it.
I
remember him.
A funny story though. Here's a funny story. One day I ate a cup of noodles before practice, and I don't know if it was Hell Week or not, but I happened to throw up.
Oh.
I threw up because I used to ride my bike to practice, and I just threw up when we were just running around, or it might have been special teams, and he ran out on the field and scooped it up.
No.
It's like, son, you throw up on my field, son. You threw up on my field.
I told you.
He scooped it up with his hand, or
Nice.
or one of those. I think
Yeah,
he used to
that's
wear
it.
those military gloves, But now that I think back, I really love that guy because you know, he didn't take excuses. He didn't take, you know, a lot of the BS. And shout out to Coach Dodd too. Coach Dodd from Mission Bay. A lot of those guys who were a little bit stern, and when you're a kid, like, oh man, that person's mean. But when I look back and I think about it, they just didn't take that crap. And you know, us kids, we think we know everything and trying to be slysters and like, oh, you know, get away with everything. But those guys, they never took that crap, you know.
Right.
And it kind of makes you a better person in the long run. In the beginning, you're like, oh, I don't like this person, but you know, they really do a better service for you.
You can say that about Trisby too, then, Coach Trisby. Right. Yeah.
Trisby was fun though. Like Trisby was fun, and he was hard. And you know, him and I think Coach Darryl were a little bit different personalities. But yeah, no, I did like Coach Trisby as well. Trisby really put a lot of belief in kids in the community and gave them that different outlet instead of hanging out. You know, back when, you know, hanging out was something to really worry about, hanging out in voltage boxes or little clubhouses or whatever. You know, now it's like guys are doing whatever they do on the internet at home. And
so at what point did you transition from the O-line to being the athlete that you ended up being?
Well, I was always big for my age. I was just a thick kid, you know. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Husky.
Not even husky. It wasn't even husky. It was just I was just thick, but I was athletic, you know. But I was the same size as all the kids older than me. But I was still a baby, and then I had a late birthday. You know, so I would hang out with guys, and I was playing with all these great athletes, these great older but lighters and stuff. And so one year, I just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay down and play with my age.
There you go.
And then that's how I happened to play with a guy named Terrell Cloud.
Terrell Cloud, Weaver State, man.
Yeah, and you know, all of those guys were more in my age group. And then, you know, I was still bigger than everybody else, you know, because that's just the type of build I had. And so I started I always used to love, like you know, what's his name? You know, the Keyshawn Johnsons, the Michael Irvins, the Randy Mosses, and so I always wanted to play receiver. And so I started really getting into offense, and you know, actually transitioned from O-line to tight end. Trisby, you know, put some courage in me and playing tight end, and started catching passes. And then when I had stayed down, you know, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna play receiver.
Right.
And I had started playing receiver.
Nice. So then from there, playing receiver, and then you ended up going to high school at Mission Bay under the great Dennis Pugh, right?
Coach Pugh.
Man, what a guy. You had a great career there. I mean, the first 2 years, weren't you guys like 26-1 or 20-0 and 2 championships, or the first 2 years you were there?
Yeah, the first 2 years. Well, I was a freshman, so I didn't play. I think I stopped playing at junior midget, so I didn't play midget. And I got in and started playing JV. I didn't play freshman. They bumped a few of us up. That's back when like Matt Bush was playing football.
Bush, yeah.
And so me, Matt Bush, a bunch of other guys, Steve Houston, a couple of other cats I can't think of right now. We all were playing JV, and it was just funny because you had this like baseball phenom who was our quarterback.
Right.
He was our quarterback. So
Matt
I was
a quarterback?
Matt was a quarterback. Right? Yeah, he played QB, but he played everything. And that's when I first started realizing this thing called defense. Because my whole Pop Warner career, I never played defense. And so I just started jumping out there at corner because I played receiver. So, you know, most receivers could play corner. And I really wasn't feeling it, you know. And so I was like rotating between corner because I was big too. So I was playing corner, like outside linebacker. And I was just like, nah. And so my whole freshman year, I just played offense. Right. And then once I started getting sophomore, started, you know, getting better with my mobility, I started playing receiver, safety, corner, you know, getting back there, punt returns and stuff like that. Right. So That's kind of the segue,
right?
into that side,
into that foray into offense and defense on its skill positions.
Exactly.
And then you guys were really stacked. I mean, when you gave me that first tape of your junior year, I believe it was, or your sophomore year, was Scott White, right? Scott White.
Oh yeah.
Marcus Smith. I mean,
Sean Harper. Ron Rocket,
Darren
Bell, Latif Aziz, Shannon Nowden.
That's an all-star team, man.
Dude, we were. Oh, you had the Jason Parker,
yeah.
And you had a couple of other big linemen, Jared Bray and David Abbott's, a bunch of cats that were really part of the whole Pew dynasty.
Yeah. So you only lost one game those 2 years, right? The San Diego High game when Marcus couldn't. Was it Marcus and Scott White couldn't play?
Man, I might have CTE, man. You bringing some you bringing some old stuff back, man. Concussions are
Tell the truth.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. You probably know better than I do.
Oh, yeah, they were pretty loaded, huh, Wheels? I mean, it was incredible.
That's a lot of talent on one team.
Yeah, and then the next year, the 12th grade year was we had Aaron Foster.
Well, those guys finished my sophomore year.
Oh, okay.
Because I used to practice with varsity.
Okay.
And then played JV.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know who's best corner I've ever seen in my life?
Give it to me.
Danny Jones.
Danny Jones. Best corner I ever seen in my life.
Danny Jones, I remember that game.
He was the natural.
He was like flypaper, man. That guy was good. That guy was good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just loaded, man, up and down the lineup. And Dennis Pugh, he was a genius, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a winner.
Yeah.
Have a guy like that. And then it went to the your 12th grade year, and then we had Terrell Cloud. Yeah. I mean, in the 12th grade year was Arian, right?
No, my junior year. That's when Arian came. Junior year is when Arian came, and like people were like, "Where'd this guy come from?" You know, and then we had Adam Rickadooley as quarterback. So so that's what really got me on the map was Adam Rickadooley throwing passes to me at receiver.
Right.
And I was playing both ways, but I still didn't take defense serious. Till I really got to a point where I figured I was like, you know what, dude, you could really make a career out of defense too. Because I wasn't a blazer, I wasn't a 4-4, I was like a 4-6, 4-7 receiver, possession receiver. Yeah. But I just used to go up for the ball, and, come across the middle. So.
Across the middle, which is a trait not too many people have.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't afraid to go over the middle. But when I made your highlight film for your junior year, man, there were some catches on there, and some things you did on defense that was incredible, and that's what started getting the calls and stuff for Dimitrious, But and watching you play, man, you're cerebral too. I mean, I think you took notes and watched film, right?
Oh yeah. I had to cheat because I was slow. I wasn't slow, but
you had competitive speed, not blazing.
Yeah, I had game speed. So I always think of like Rod Woodson,
Charles Woodson,
Palomalu. Guys who...
Oh, you were safety.
Yeah, safety. Okay, right. And so I used to always cheat. I used to always try to read plays, knowing what they're going to line up and do, calling the plays out, It's like a linebacker at safety, pretty much.
It's a guessing game a lot of the times, yeah.
So then in your senior year, we had that really subdued defensive coordinator. He was a really quiet guy.
Oh, Mel Galley.
Mel Galley, yeah.
Gallio.
How was his influence on your game?
Oh man, Mel Galley. When you have somebody who really believes in you, I mean, at a young age, because that's when you're becoming a man, and sports is good to develop that. Yeah. But when you have someone who can talk to you like a man, but they still believe in you as a person, it really affects you. It reflects in your play, but it reflects in your off the field.
Okay, and we'll hold that thought. We'll be right back. We're going to take a little break here. Hopefully Iggy will walk in. We'll be right back on the Coach Rose Show on KBLKradio.com. Our guest is Dimitrous Chattman. Mission Bay High School, San Jose State, and Wheeler brought up a couple of different plays, right? The play and the play, right?
Right.
So go ahead.
Okay, now I wanted to elaborate on your illustrious Pop Warner career one more time with the play of the century. Can you elaborate on that? Can you tell us how that went down?
Now, who was playing?
No, it was VP versus Balboa.
Okay.
Were you guys like Pee-wees?
Junior Pee-wee or Pee-wee.
Okay, right.
One of the two. Junior
Okay.
Pee-wee or Pee-wee.
Okay, I'm going to set it up. How much time was left?
I don't even remember how much time was left. I'm looking at the picture right now.
Well, okay, but
I just know
it was like seconds or a minute or something like that,
yeah,
right? And you guys were down to the fourth down or something like that.
It was clutch time, yeah.
Okay, Terrell Cloud was the quarterback.
Terrell Cloud was the quarterback?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you were the receiver. What happened against VP?
I remember back in practice, Coach Wade, and I think his son used to coach. Nathan Wade was the receivers coach, and they used to always call it the banana route. And
Split.
It was basically a post corner, but without all the fancy ways the NFL does the post corner.
Right.
And at any level, that's a hard throw. High school to pros, that's a hard throw. And so we were down, and they called that play, and they're like, "Chatt, this is the play. We're down right now.
Make it happen.
Make it happen." And I'm looking at this picture right now. Caught it in the air, pants falling down, and running to the end zone for the score, man. And I think that was my first ever touchdown too.
Wow, how far was it?
It was at least there's the 30, so it was about 40, 50 yards. Yeah.
Nice. And who was this guy here?
I don't know.
That's Larry Ayers.
Larry,
Sorry, Larry. I'm gonna put you on blast.
Larry.
Hey, but you know what? His father got mad.
Oh.
His father was mad at me because of that picture. Because I put it in the paper.
Oh wow.
And then Pops said, "Oh man, it was they played a few weeks later, and Pop said, you put him in the paper when he got burnt. Now I want you to put him in the paper because he'd got an interception, I think against Skyline or something. Right after the game, Pops came over there. Yeah, but he brung Larry over there. Yeah, interview him now. You know what I'm saying? You put him in the paper when he got burnt. Now put him in there for doing something good.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, bro, no problem.
Which you do all the time anyway.
Anyway,
yeah.
I'm here to serve the community.
So, Dimitrous, I didn't know about the play, man. Number 88, looks like. Yeah.
80.
80, okay.
80,
all right.
yeah.
Hey, Terrell chunked it. Spiral, bing.
T Cloud to
yeah.
Wow, TC to DC. Wow,
yes, sir.
That's incredible.
A game-winning catch. Crowd went crazy. Hey, but you got to shoot me the footage though. I got to see that.
The video?
Yeah.
I don't know about any video.
Oh, I thought you said you had the video.
Oh, you had the video.
No. What was at the wedding? We had a slideshow video.
And that was one of the
this
pictures
picture was on there. And someone went up to Terrell, was like, "Well, how do you know Dimitrious?" And then he's like, "Look it right there. That's how I know him."
There you go.
All right, so let's get back to Melly Mel Galley and the wild defense. The Buccaneers when you were there with
44.
Yeah.
Safety lined up at 8 yards. I mean, we had Terrell and Smokey at corner.
Yeah.
So I mean, we really ran we were like a Raiders defense, man coverage, sometimes single high safety, but it was man coverage across the board.
We had a D line. We had
we
Dela
did.
Cruz, Battle, DeAndre Ford. I mean, Crooks.
We had some boys up there.
Old Crooks, but I mean, those were some fun times as well. And then that year, your film was incredible. I mean, you did a lot of things offensively and defensively. And so then you ended up, I mean, you took a trip to North Carolina, right?
Trip to North Carolina, Idaho,
Right.
San Jose State, and Hawaii.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, highly recruited. I mean, Arian, everybody came for Arian, but Arian was.
Me and Arian actually went on
on the same trip.
the North Carolina trip, and I
Yeah.
remember the North Carolina people. They were recruiting Arian, and then they told you like, "Who is this guy?" He's
Yeah.
on all of his highlights,
Yeah.
And so they brought me in because they were recruiting some highly recruited guy from Florida, and they were like, And I appreciated them so much. They were like, look, you're not our first choice. We got this guy. We're bringing you in on the big weekend that all of our top recruits are coming. But our number one guy, if he doesn't sign, we're picking you up.
Wow.
And so, you know, so it didn't work. He ended up committing.
Right.
You know.
So he was almost a Tar Heel, Wheeler.
Oh, no, that would have been cool.
Almost a Tobacco Road. So then you decided on San Jose State.
Absolutely, yeah. I just thought it was the best thing for me, my family, my future. You know, I knew about the Silicon Valley, and it was in California. It was still close enough, and you know, I was a Pacific Ocean guy. You know, I didn't want to leave the Pacific Ocean, man. And so, you know, that was probably the smartest decision I've ever made.
And who was the head coach when you were there? A legendary guy, right? Is it Tommy or?
Well, Fitz Hill was the guy.
Fitz Hill.
Yeah, so it was a black coach at the time, and you know, this is taboo. You know, a head black coach coming to your living room, talking to your family. Yeah. You know,
and Keith Williams was
Coach Dub. Shout out to Coach Dub. And they, you know, they offered me, and I was just like, man, you know, San Jose State, Silicon Valley,
right?
You know, it's all about tech. It's, you know, at that time, that's when the tech was just started bubbling, and you know, I knew about a lot of the companies up there, from the Googles, the eBays, the Yahoos, the Twitter, Facebook, before those things even sprouted up. You know, that was the headquarters of the Bay Area. And so when they offered me, I was like, man, that's it. He was like one of 3 or 4 black coaches in the NCAA at the time. So I was like, man, you know what? It's the right decision.
And then Tommy came in after that.
And then Tommy came in a year or 2 later. And that was even better, you know, because he came in. He just had a little bit more notoriety in the NCAA. He was like the 8th winningest coach active. Right. So, you know, all these coaches, 120 coaches in the NCAA, he was like the 8th all time in wins. Right. You know, so he knew what he was doing. He did some great things academically for the school, which we needed.
Right. Exactly. So, you moved around like safety, linebacker, outside linebacker, right?
Yeah, you know, they recruited me as an athlete. And they were like, because they knew I played receiver, they knew I liked receiver, but they said, you know, they told me like, look, you're going to be competing against guys that are like 4'2" receiver John Broussard,
CIF sprint champions,
the Green Bay Packers Super Bowl winner James Jones. You know, and it wasn't that it discouraged me. It was just like I knew I was good at defense. Defense came easy to me, you know, because I wasn't afraid of hitting. Contact was my forte. Like that's what receiver. I brought that contact to receiver. Right. And so when they were like, "Hey, we're gonna let you choose. What do you want to do?" And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna play DB." Right. And so when I got in, you know, I was chunky, and you know, I was a safety, the same size as some of our linebackers. Right. Okay. So they were like, "We need you at linebacker." Right. You know, and so you know, kind of bounced around, and you know, that's how that ended up.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest games you were involved, like opponents?
We would play Kansas State, Nebraska.
Wow.
Of course, San Diego State. That was a fun one, playing at home. We played Washington. We played some other schools, man. I told you, man, these concussions, man, are serious. No, I'm just playing. I'm just kidding. No, we played a lot of big schools and a lot of mediocre schools. You know, the Illini up in Illinois. Those were the huge crowds. Yeah. You know, we were playing in front of 70,000. Yeah. You know, 50,000. You know, that was crazy.
It is, wow. And wasn't Kent Bear there when you were there as well?
Yeah, Kent Bear was there as well.
Yeah, a lot of great coaches on that staff.
Great guy. I love
Keith Williams, Kent Bear, Tommy. Was Fred Judici there?
No. We had Tom Williams, Keith Burns, Phipp, Coach Brennan. A lot of those guys are in NFL now too.
Yeah. So that was some great coaching staff we had there, Wheels. I mean,
well, what was one of your favorite games or memories from that whole college experience?
It'd probably have to be Nebraska.
Because of the big show.
It was just the whole experience, seeing the city shut down. The whole city shut down because everybody's going to football game. The food, I remember, playing out there. I had a couple tackle for loss. It was just an exciting game because we almost the energy. We almost won that game.
You almost beat Nebraska?
Yeah, we almost beat Nebraska. Yeah.
Who'd they have then that we might know?
I couldn't even tell you.
Okay, so and then after that, then now when you're in college now, it's no longer it's a job. So you have your academics and you have your football. When did you guys practice, in the morning or did you practice at night? What was a normal day?
So we used to have to get up at 6 a.m. We have to be at the stadium halfway dressed for a team meeting at 7. So halfway dressed meaning the coach always wanted you to have at least your pants, because you got to put your thigh pads in and all that stuff, and taped. So you had to be at least taped, and the coach would know like if you got there late, because he could just look at you and say you ain't even taped, you ain't got your pants. So the rule of thumb was always halfway dressed for that 7 a.m. meeting. So then you had team meeting, offense, defense meeting, special teams meeting. Then you had your individual meetings. Then you would go out to the practice from 7:30 to 9:30. So you had your 2-hour practice. You couldn't have any classes before 10 o'clock.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So that gives you 30 minutes to get dressed and get breakfast, and then 30 minutes to head to campus because it was a little bit down the road. And that was our week. Tuesday through Friday, basically.
Wow. And then after the morning practice, then you go to class.
Yeah, so you'll have your classes from 10:30 on out. So, but before 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you needed to come back and watch film, watch practice. You needed to get weights in. If you had study hall, you had study hall probably at like 6. Yeah, so you were on the clock, man. It wasn't a job; it was a lifestyle. You had to really stay on top of that.
So then after that, and at night you go to your probably eat dinner after the films, and then you go to a study table, right, or tutoring.
Yeah.
And then sleep around 10, and start back up.
Man, I could tell you, man, there were nights where we were up till 2, 3 in the morning, and then there was nights where we were drained, and because you're doing it all over again. So. It's a real commitment, man, and your body is drained because you're mentally drained, then you're physically drained from practice and in class and homework and 20-page papers and etc.
Wow. And so, what do you think is the biggest change from high school to college? I mean, you feel there's more support in college, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think there is, but what happens, Coach, is we carry a lot of habits. We carry a lot of baggage. Just like in our lives. Something happened to you at 7, 8 years old, tragic. You carry that into your adulthood unless you address that. So the same thing with your study habits. That's why you see kids who go to private schools or go to a good school, good charter school like Helix or Steel Canyon, where they practice study habits since middle school, and they carry those into college, and they can excel at an Ivy League or a upper echelon college. But what happened with me, at least, and I'm speaking to my kind of story, is like I had some really bad study habits, and so when I got to college, I struggled. I had remedial math, because I didn't take tests good, and so those things really made college a little bit harder than it should have been, because I took so long to wake up and realize, like, what, this is what you struggle with. You might have a dyslexic background with numbers or math, and understanding the resources are there across the board, whether it's high school or college. Is like kids don't know, And if they do know, they're marginalized sometimes by taking advantage of, because, you know, kids are mean and like, oh, well, look at you, you're dumb, or you need extra time on a test, or you need somebody to take notes for you. But when you realize all those things that really help you take it to the next level, you're stupid for not taking advantage of them. I mean, you got people who are in wheelchairs who can't even talk, you know, who are getting degrees from universities. You got people who have no arms. You know what I mean? And so when you see stuff like that, it really like wakes you up, or at least for me it did. And that's when I started taking advantage of my resources and asking questions, because most kids don't ask questions. You know, you shake their hand, it's a limp hand, like, how you doing? Oh, I'm okay. Yeah, you know, and that's why you see the ones who stand out at a young age, they excel, because either they had good coaching, good mentorship from their parents and family, or they just learned the hard way like I did, you know. And I had a great support system, and, you know, we weren't by far perfect, but, you know, I was the first male in my family to go to college. You know, so filling out financial aid and stuff like that, that was a foreign language. That was that was hieroglyphics, you know, from some distant land, you know. So I really appreciated the resources that were out there. And yeah.
Well, Wheeler, this young man, he didn't mess around out there academically. He got his BA in communications, and then he went ahead and got a master's in sports management. Can you believe that, man?
Yeah. When it comes to him, I believe anything, bro. I mean, anything positive, and whatever he set in mind to do, he get it done. Yeah.
And so you take this.
What he do? That's Dimitrious.
That academics, and then you parlay that into a job with the Oakland Raiders, right? That was your first.
Well, okay. So let me go back a little bit, because I want to touch on the academics for anybody who's listening who cares about this stuff. When I got to college, I wanted to do business, and I had an academic advisor discourage me from doing business, and I get why, because you only get so many electives. You get like 3 to 6 units of electives. When you're doing business, because it's so cookie cutter. So whereas communication, you had a little bit more choice, and you could pick and pull with your, you know, 18 to 24 electives. And I love the communications, but originally I had wanted to do business. But I'm still glad it ended up the way it did, because the communication was where I really needed to be. But, you know, I got to a point on the football field where, you know, things weren't going perfect for me. You know, I did some missed opportunities, my own knucklehead mistakes, and I was a redshirt junior, redshirt senior, and a new academic advisor. Shout out to Eileen Daly and Andrew Agbe. They're like, D, you're done. You know, what do you want to do with your senior year? You know, you know, your redshirt senior year, you can go take a PE class, or you can or you can strap up and go to grad school. And I was like, what's that? That's another foreign language to me. You know, I'm thinking, you know, a kid with not much confidence in the classroom, and they were like, you're going to grad school, you know. And they're like, you know, and I had some family, and one of my aunts encouraged me, and my parents as well, and and you know, it was foreign to some of them as well. But I got into the sports management program, and it was the first 4.0 I ever got.
Wow.
You know, got teachers asking me, you know, what do you think we should do? You know, people used to look back and it's like, oh, so what do you think, Dimitrious? I'm like, oh, well, here's what I think, you know. And confidence is one thing, you know. Even if you don't have all the answers, if you have the confidence to find the answers, or confidence to get around the people who have the answers, you know, that really set apart. So I was doing this master's in sports management, and I had a relationship with the athletic director, because I used to always see him on the sidelines, you know, and they wear their suits, and you see the president of the university, and these guys knew me on a first name basis just because I would go and say hi and introduce myself. And one day the athletic director, he told me, he's like, D, you know, because I used to always tell him, nice suit, man, nice suit. You know, he's had those fly suits on, you know. And he's like, you know, when I worked at the 49ers, I used to have a suit budget.
Whoa.
I was like, what?
And
when he told me that opened up a whole world of possibilities. Because as a kid, and you see these guys in Wall Street and all these suits, these $1,000 suits or whatever, and I never understood that, man, you could work a corporate job and you got a suit budget, or you have a per diem for suits. And so when he told me that, that just opened up the whole sports world for me, and among other things and conversations that I had. And one day I had did a project, and after that project, he was so impressed because it was basically a one-on-one interview, and I told him, hey man, keep a lookout for any internships that are out there for me, because I was going to be graduating and I needed those hours. And I get a call one day at like 7 a.m. from the college phone number. You know how the phone number, you don't know who it is, but it's like
408.
that. Yeah, it's just 408. Yeah, 924-1000. I'm like, oh man, who is this? And he's like, Dimitrious, do you want to work for John Madden and Steve Mariucci running their bocce ball tournament? And I was like, I don't know what bocce ball is, but I know who John Madden is. Heck yeah. So call this guy, and I called the guy. Ended up being like 2 hours late to the interview because it was a gridlock traffic. It rained.
Whoa.
I did poor management of time, but but the grace of God, it worked out for me. And I had this internship working for John Madden and Steve Mariucci.
Wow.
Then that turned into another internship working for the Raiders. So it was 2 internships back to back. And let me tell listeners out there, internships are probably the most important thing when it comes to working in sports, working and just in life, because that's the time where you can shadow someone, without actually having a job.
Right.
And that's when you're going to learn the most, because if you look at a lot of these big time celebrities, these big time business gurus, all of the people around them and in the world would pick you up and hire you just because you interned for like if you were intern for Jay-Z,
right,
or if you were intern for the Warner Brothers Network or the Disney or ESPN, all of these organizations, they're going to be like, well, even though you were an intern, we knew you had to go through something. You had to go through a process. Just like that bond that football players have and sports players have. You go through these 2-a-day practices and, film and all these late nights. It's like a bond that you have. So when people see that, like, dang, you were an intern, you were a poster boy running to get coffee. I remember one of the times as a Raider intern, they were like, hey, Nnamdi Asamoah's cars broke down on the freeway. We need you to go wait for that car, wait for his the dealer to come so they can come pick the car up. And that was my job, just to go sit there
I'll
and
take
wait.
that job.
But you have to understand though, you have to take your ego out of it. And I always reference the ego, EGO, edging God out. When you have your ego involved with something, it stops you sometimes from apologizing, knowing your possibilities, knowing how much is in store for you. And I had a master's degree and I was doing this 2 internships back to back.
Wow.
The Raiders, unpaid $150 a week.
Wow.
You're talking 60 hours, 80-hour weeks. Now it's football, you're at practice, you're around players, but it's not paying my bills.
Right.
And so using that internship as a vehicle to get a full-time job during a lockout.
Right.
I was one of the last guys to come in the organization before the lockout, and Al Davis was still alive, Amy Trask, female CEO, and I learned a lot from those people because they saw the dedication that I had, but they also listened with more than their eyes, or their ears. They listened with their eyes. They seen this guy show up. Man, this guy's always raising his hand to come do, all right, I'll go stand on the freeway, wait for this car.
Right.
You know what? I'll set up this tent early in the morning.
Right.
Hey, Hugh Jackson was the coach at the time, the offensive coordinator, right? Yeah. And Hugh found out that I had played college ball. And so he was like, hey, I'm going to use you. I'm going to need you to step up and do scout.
Wow.
And so I'm like this intern, not with gear on, but it was one of those things where I knew how smart this guy was because he made it fun and he utilized his resources. And so when he brought me in, he was like, hey, I want you to be the scout safety, because what it looks like. You can disguise the coverage, and doing these are just walkthroughs and half speed type stuff. But that's when Tyvon Branch and Darren McFadden and all these guys were at the Raiders back in I want to say 2010, 11. Yeah.
From a Balboa Raider to an Oakland Raider.
Hey, not bad.
Not bad. Man. That is awesome. So Now, let's take that to what you're doing now with your Epic Sports program. Can you explain about what you're doing with that?
Yeah, so Epic Sports really, it came in when I started looking at my career path. And when I was working at the Oakland Raiders, I always used to say to the kids when I speak to them, I was like, I didn't have anybody from the front office of the San Diego Padres or the San Diego Chargers come in and speaking to me, And so I was like, man, there's so much possibility, there's so much opportunity out here for these kids. Cause I worked on the business side. So when I got into the Raiders, I was a football operations intern. But when I got hired, I was on the sales and fundraising side.
Okay.
So I was on the business side. So it's a whole different world than football, and game film and running errands and all that. So when I used to go to speak to the schools, I used to let them know a lot of the possibilities that are out there just from my own story.
Right.
It's not for everybody. Not everybody's story is the same way. Not everybody can even think that they can do something like this. But at Epic Sports, really, we just envision a new culture where, youth are aware of the business and career paths that are available to them so they can have a clear sense of their skill set, the training need to get to that, the development and the talent that they need to persevere through the different obstacles of life. And, it really takes a person to champion that future, to understand and visualize that. And so, Epic Sports really strive to kind of share that passion, and not only on the football field, but in a world that kind of promotes the out-of-the-box thinking. And I kind of just draw on my own source of love and unity that I've had with my mentors, guys like you, guys like Mr. Wheeler, who really supported us, and, writing papers, calling coaches at 5 a.m, for scholarships and stuff like that. So, I guess the one of many goals of the transformational Epic Sports seminars is to, further dialogue, let go of the fear, and let these gifts shine together, so these kids can see, like, wow, you know what? I can be an athletic director and make, $100,000, $500,000 a year. I can design my own piece of equipment and patent it.
Right.
I can design a helmet. I can go and be a groundskeeper for the LA Galaxy, or I can be an athletic trainer. I could be a coach. I can get my master's degree in sports management.
So you're shedding light on the other jobs that you could have other than being on the football field, like Wheeler, the newspaper reporter, the photographer, still close to the game.
Right. There's so many jobs that branch out from sports.
Right.
It's just so many jobs, and I like what you're doing. Exposing people to the other jobs.
Somebody's got to make the jersey. Somebody got to upkeep the field. Somebody got to organize these people to walk into this stadium.
Somebody's got to represent them.
Right. You got the PR. You got the business side.
Agents.
The agents. There's so many ways that that a kid or an adult, for that matter, can project their future through the sports.
Right. So you have seminars and you talk to the kids, and how's it work after that?
It's a work in progress. I've been invited to so many things, and I kind of just let it flow. I let things like this happen, and people hear that and like, oh, Coach Rowe, you should talk to this kid, or hey, Mr. Wheeler's going to speak on this panel, and and they invite Dimitrous Chattman. So. My whole world is been sports for the longest. I work in sports right now. I work for Chatt Sports, and we're the top manufacturer for protective equipment, helmets, shoulder pads, baseball. And so we're on the science side of things, where we're understanding what's going on with our bodies and understanding what's going on the football field and the manufacturing side. And so, it's limitless possibilities, really. I don't really know. I don't really put a cap on what Epic Sports can turn into. It could get a grant where we're going in and doing 4-week seminars, or it could be something where we're launching a class at a university or a junior college.
That is great, man. So that's a good point. Like athletic director, general manager, right? I mean, that's one thing I think you could do, right? I mean, general manager. I mean, run things, And there's so many other jobs in sports. That's incredible, and people need to understand that because the career doesn't last too long. I think it's 3 years average.
Oh yeah, man. Let's just talk about that
Yeah.
for a second, because the NCAA put out some estimated probability of completing in athletics beyond the high school interscholastic level. And let's just take football. This says, this is based on the NCAA. If you're listening, you can just Google NCAA estimated probability of competing in athletics. I'm pretty sure it'll come up. If you need it, you can reach out to Coach Rowe. I can email this to you. But there's 1.1 million high school student athletes. So then that turns into 70,000 football NCAA student athletes. So participating in high school football, there's 1.1 million roughly. NCAA student athletes that turn into football players are 70,000, right? So then it says, how many of those are senior student athletes? So it's 15,000 are senior football players. So then you go from seniors, what do you do after you're a senior? You get drafted, right? Well, how many of that 15,588 get drafted? 254. So then if you look at the percent high school to NCAA, that's 6.5%. But NCAA to the pros, 1.6%. Percent high school to professional, 0.08%. That's just football. Let's just run through basketball numbers. There's 538,000.
Well, there's only 2 rounds of draft.
Right. NCAA student athletes in basketball, 17,000. NCAA senior positions, 3,966. 996, I'm sorry. And then student athletes drafted, 46. Percent high school to NCAA, 3.3. NCAA to professional, 1.2. Percent high school to professional, 0.03.
Wow.
So there's a lot more. They got soccer, hockey, baseball, women's basketball. These are just some good data points to really look at, and just to understand, not to discourage you, but to understand that you are competing against your counterpart in the same city, the same county, the other city, the other state. So when you get to college, everybody was the best player at their high school.
Yeah, exactly. So it would behoove you to look at the other jobs that you can stay close to the sport that's around the sport, is what you're saying. And then you're going to shed light on that with the Epic Sports program, right? That's
what type of response have you been getting?
As far as
the kids, the people you're trying to reach out to?
Well, I think the long-term response is really what matters, because when I look back to the conversations that I was having as a 16, 17-year-old, 15-year-old, it wasn't about this type of stuff.
Right. At all.
So my hope and my goal is just to go from this tunnel vision here to open it up, right?
Broaden that scope.
Broaden the scope so they can see that, dang, you know what? My life isn't over after high school football.
Right.
I mean, you got guys who play NCAA and don't get drafted, or get drafted and get hurt, or don't make a roster spot, and they're, man, I'm 22 years old. My life is over. What?
22?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of things that I get into the seminars that can help people, help parents, help coaches. People forget that there's a psychological aspect of dealing with injuries, of dealing with not making a team. You know what I mean? Dealing with a schedule like that I just talked about, from 5:30 getting up to 7 p.m. You're finishing study hall.
Training, all of that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of mental and physical. The football piece is a small piece. Being buff and hitting the weights, that's a small piece. That's the easy piece. But maintaining injury, coming back from injury. So that's why you see guys who come back from those injuries, they're on another level, man, because to put your body through something and to be at, 90% and still perform to the best of your ability, not having a mindset that you're weaker than you thought you would be, or stronger than you thought you would be. It really takes a lot out of a person and the people around them. Imagine you being the man all the time and your people seeing you hurt, and it's like everything you did was like, oh, when you gonna be back? When you gonna be healthy again? And that's all people care about. When you're so used to like, great run this week, great catch.
You the man.
You the man, exactly. So that's why it's a lot of things, and hopefully, you know, somebody out there at the NFL, somebody out there, the Olympics, are listening to this, because, you know, I take charge for myself and my own path, but I got to give back more than what I was given.
Oh man, that's beautiful, man.
Man,
That's awesome.
well, you know, I think my daughter was right. My daughter was like 2nd or 3rd grade, and they were studying Greek mythology, and the teacher asked the kids, "Do you know any Greek gods or any gods?" And my daughter said, "Yeah, Dimitrous Chattman." So
Far from a god, man. I far from a god. Really,
You
just a
stop
servant.
telling them that stuff, man.
Really,
Hey, that was her.
really, that's a funny story, because
Yeah.
she really did say that. But
She did?
yeah, she really thought, because she heard that name,
Like
Dimitrous
Demetrius.
Chattman Maximus, like some
Oh,
crazy.
sorry, she started adding to it.
Yeah. But really, it's really about service, man, and really being a servant. And, you know, I gave my life to God, you know, and I was able to turn a lot of things around. I seen guys go to jail. I seen guys throw away their careers. I had a friend that was close to me. I had a roommate at one point,
Right.
you know, allegedly jumped off a parking garage, the 5th story, you know.
Yeah.
So I seen a lot of things that really woke me up early, and you know, I really dedicate all that to my God, Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Awesome, man. Well, Dimitrious, I'm very proud of you, man. It was an honor to coach you and to help you get your college career going. And I'm really excited to see what happens in your epic sports program. We might have to do a part 2, huh, Wheeler?
And a part 3.
Yeah, get this guy back here.
yeah, man.
Well, we want to thank you for coming,
Wealth
my
of
man.
information.
I gave you the microwave version, so
How can people get a hold of you if they want?
man, they'll find me in the
Okay.
community. They'll find me through you, man.
Okay.
An email.
Okay.
You know what? I get my phone number out because I will, because people, you know, what I've learned too is just a lot of times you give people resources and they don't take advantage of it. But you can reach me on my cell phone, area code 619-251-2547. 619-251-2547.
Oh, thanks for coming, my man. Dimitrous Chattman, give him a hand.
Right.
All right. We'll be back next week on the Coach Rose Show, KBLKradio.com. Hopefully, Iggy will be back with the pizza.
Hey,
And
man, come on.
The
Yeah.
icon will be here, and Big Al on the boards. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Coach.
Hey, Demetrius, you